We are barely a week into the 2025 NHL Playoffs, and it's already spiraling into absolute madness. Every series is just 2 or 3 games deep, but it feels like we've been living in a war zone. Opponents are headbutting each other, teammates are taking each other out, insane comebacks that make no sense, and goalies are either standing on their heads or completely imploding. Coaches are losing their minds on the bench, fans are losing their minds in the stands, and players are losing their minds on the ice. Every single series is getting nasty, hits are flying, tempers are flaring, and nobody is safe. Legacies are being made in real time, and just as quickly, legacies are being crushed. This isn't just playoff hockey, it is full-on mayhem. The Battle of Ontario has lived up to every ounce of its name and then some. These teams do not like each other. That much has been obvious from the very first puck drop. Hits are flying, players are barking at each other, and tensions are boiling over every single shift. Even Stolars got in on the action. At one point, the refs had enough and called penalties on literally everyone on the ice.
And then Toronto, number 2, 11, 25, 74, and 89 have 2 minutes for roughing. And then Ottawa, 43, 15, 22, 33, and 81 have 2 minutes for roughing. We're going to play 4-on-4.
But beneath the madness, something even crazier is happening. Toronto's winning. They're actually winning a series. The Leafs have taken a commanding 3-0 series lead over Ottawa after back-to-back overtime wins and are looking the best they have in years. And the Stars are stepping up. Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner are finally doing what Toronto has begged them to do for years: show up in the postseason. They're controlling the pace, producing when it matters, and dragging this team forward. Add in solid contributions from their depth and a locked-in Anthony Stolars, and Toronto, dare we say it, looks like a legit contender. Meanwhile, Ottawa is hanging on for dear life. This is a young team playing with the house's money right now, but the cracks are starting to show. Linus Ullmark, who was supposed to be their backbone, has looked human, and not in a good way. He's getting exposed everywhere: high glove, low blocker, and everywhere in between. Combine that with defensive breakdowns and a suddenly red-hot Toronto forecheck, and the Senators are scrambling. Now, here's the part where the Leafs fans get nervous. Yes, they're up 3-0. Yes, they've looked the best they have in years, but if any team were to blow a 3-0 lead today, it would be Toronto. It's unlikely, but that feeling never really goes away, especially not with this franchise. Not until the job's finished. So far, Toronto's done everything right, but in a series this nasty, this personal, and this physical, nothing is over until the handshake line. And just like the Battle of Ontario, the Battle of Florida has delivered exactly what everyone expected: pure violence. From the opening faceoff, it's been nothing but scrums, chirping, and big hits. Every whistle ends with a crowd, every zone entry comes with a price. These two teams don't just compete with each other, they genuinely hate each other, and it's showing on every single shift. Separated by just 250 miles, this in-state rivalry is as personal as it gets. On the scoreboard, though, it's been all Florida. The Panthers are bringing the Stanley Cup experience from the past 2 seasons: structured, physical, and opportunistic. They've completely controlled the pace of play through 2 games, smothering Tampa's attack and converting when it counts. Sergei Bobrovsky has been locked in, clearly outdueling Andrei Vasilevsky, who hasn't really looked himself. Florida's defensive coverage has been airtight, and their top guys are winning the matchups that matter. Tampa has had chances, but they've been outplayed in just about every single area so far. But don't be surprised if the tides turn, as Alexander Barkov actually left Game 2 with an apparent injury after this hit by Brendan Hagel. And if he's out for a stretch of time, that swings the door wide open for the Tampa Bay Lightning to crawl right back into the series. Still, as it stands right now, Florida looks like the better team and the tougher one. If Tampa wants to flip the script, it's going to take serious adjustments and probably a few more black eyes. And although it's not Battle of Florida or Battle of Ontario, the Capitals vs. Canadiens series has been physical, fast, and at times surprisingly tense. But what's becoming clear now is that experience is running the show. Montreal came into the playoffs as one of the youngest teams to ever make the postseason, full of speed, full of upside. But through 2 games, it's clear they're still figuring out what playoff hockey actually feels like. Washington, on the other hand, looks like a team that's been here before, because they have. And no one embodies that more than Alexander Ovechkin. He's been elite offensively, and his presence alone is enough to make a difference, setting the tone, punishing defenders, and reminding everyone that he's still a postseason problem. Statistically, it's insane. Ovi has more career playoff goals than Montreal's entire current roster combined, and that gap in experience is playing out in real time. Tom Wilson's been doing his usual thing, throwing the body around, drawing penalties, and getting under the Habs' skin. This series has been chippy with after-whistle scrums and some clear frustration from Montreal after being so close in Game 1. For Montreal, this series is an uphill battle. Their young core is getting its first real taste of high-pressure playoff hockey, and Washington is not making it easy. The Canadiens' offense has shown flashes, but they've struggled to manage the Caps' physical forecheck and defensive structure. Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki have had chances, but nothing is coming easy. At this point, the Canadiens don't just need a win, they need an absolute response. They've been out-executed and out-muscled in every aspect of this series, and if they can't adjust to that, this series might be over before they even get settled in. And while the rest of the East has been absolute chaos and emotion, Carolina vs. New Jersey is on the other end of the spectrum, fast, technical, and under the radar. But don't mistake it for a quiet and boring series. This has been one of the most intense matchups so far, just without the headlines. Carolina's been in full control. Their depth and structure have overwhelmed the Devils through 2 games, and even when New Jersey showed a little pushback in Game 2, it never really felt like the Hurricanes were in trouble. This team has been deep in the playoffs multiple times, and it shows. They're calm, consistent, and playing like the first round is just something they have to get through. New Jersey, on the other hand, is struggling to keep up. Their strength is their speed, but Carolina isn't giving them that time or space to use it. Their forecheck has been relentless, their neutral zone is a wall, and defensive mistakes are piling up. Add in the injury issues starting to pile up on New Jersey's side, and the path forward isn't looking great, especially when Markstrom is taking out his own D-men. Unless something changes fast, Carolina's on track to finish this series without much drama, just like they've done in plenty of other first rounds. And if you thought the East was chaotic, just wait. The Western Conference hasn't just matched the madness. In some cases, it's blown it out of the water. Minnesota came into the series with something to prove. Through the first 3 games, they've made their point. The Wild are finally healthy, and when this team is healthy, we've seen they're one of the best teams in the league. Their forecheck is relentless, they're physical without getting sloppy, and they've been scoring kind of gritty, hard-earned goals that wear opponents down over a 7-game series. Vegas hasn't had many answers. The Golden Knights have been overwhelmed by Minnesota's pace and pressure, especially deep in the offensive zone where the Wild are cycling with ease and creating second-chance looks. Game 3 was a clear example. Minnesota dominated puck possession, pushed the game all night, and never gave Vegas a chance to settle in. At the heart of it all is Kirill Kaprizov, who looks like the best player in the world right now. He's controlling the tempo, making defenders miss, and finishing plays when it counts. Matt Boldy is heating up too, finally finding the back of the net and adding to an already dangerous offensive mix. And on the back end, Philip Gustafsson has been lights out. He's shutting the door on everything, making timely saves, and giving the Wild the kind of stability in net that's made them even harder to crack. This team looked like a legitimate contender earlier in the season before injuries piled up. Now they're healthy, they're rolling, and they look like one of the most complete teams in the playoffs. If they keep this up, Vegas might not be around much longer. And while Minnesota's surging, things are a lot murkier in the Jets vs. Blues series. A series that looks like a mismatch on paper, but has quietly become one of the most interesting in the West. Winnipeg holds the series lead and has looked explosive at times, but the cracks are starting to show, and they're hard to ignore. Connor Hellebuyck hasn't been himself. He was pulled in Game 3 after giving up 6 goals on 25 shots, and while he's one of the best goalies in the world, his play in the playoffs has been shaky his entire career. And that is a big concern, especially for a team that leans so heavily on its goaltending to control momentum and bail them out when things break down in the defensive zone, which they have done more than once. That said, Winnipeg's offense is still a threat every single time they touch the puck. They've got the firepower to break open a game quickly, and when their forecheck is clicking, they can overwhelm teams. They've shown that they can win games even when they're not playing perfectly, but St. Louis has been trending upward. They came into the playoffs as one of the hottest teams in the league, and they've carried that over into this series. Game 3 was a clear shift in momentum, not just in the score, but in how the Blues dictated the pace of play from start to finish. The Jets are still in the driver's seat though, but St. Louis isn't going to go away quietly. This series is closer than you may think, and if Winnipeg doesn't tighten things up, they could find themselves in real trouble. Out of all the matchups in the first round, Colorado vs. Dallas feels the most out of place, not just because it doesn't belong, but because it looks like and feels like a Western Conference final. These are 2 of the most complete experienced playoff teams, and the fact that one of them is going home early is brutal. The biggest storyline of this series so far was Gabriel Landeskog's return in Game 3, his first game back in over 1,000 days. His leadership and physical presence was noticeable from the first shift, and having him back gives Colorado another layer they've been missing since their cup run. But even before Landeskog stepped on the ice, Nathan MacKinnon had already been carrying the load. He's been dominant all series, flying through the neutral zone, creating chances out of nothing, and putting up constant pressure on Dallas's defense. He looks like a man on a mission, and every time he touches the puck, the pace shifts. That being said though, Dallas hasn't flinched. After getting dominated in Game 1, they responded with back-to-back overtime wins to take a 2-1 series lead. They're not playing flashy, they're just playing smart, structured, and suffocating hockey. This series is tight, physical, and incredibly well played on both sides. It's a shame this isn't happening in the third round because it has all the ingredients of a heavyweight classic. Instead, one of the West West juggernauts is going to be gone by next week, and that's just the reality of a stacked conference. But to round things out, if there's one series that perfectly encapsulates what playoff hockey is, it's Edmonton vs LA. This series has been complete chaos from the start. Game 1 said it all. The Oilers pulled off an insane comeback thanks to a ridiculous performance from Connor McDavid, who single-handedly brought the Oilers back, only for them to blow it in the final minute. It's become a theme. Edmonton has all the talent in the world, but they still find new ways to make things way harder than they need to be. Goaltending has become a serious issue. Stuart Skinner was pulled in Game 2 after another rough outing, and while Calvin Pickard gave them a bit of a spark, the Kings are fully in control of the series right now. They've won the key moments, frustrated Edmonton's top players, and played with a scrappy, relentless edge that's giving the Oilers real problems. Edmonton is not out of it though, especially what we saw them do last year, and especially with the kind of firepower they have. But they're in a hole, and if they don't figure out goaltending and defensive structure fast, they'll be heading for another early exit, regardless of how many highlight reels McDavid makes in the meantime. The Stanley Cup playoffs are absolute chaos, plain and simple. No lead is safe, no favorite is guaranteed, one bounce off a skate, one missed assignment, one goalie losing his edge. That's the difference between glory and a collapse. Bodies are flying, tempers are boiling over, and game plans are getting thrown out the window. What we've seen so far is everything this sport promises and more. Rivalries erupting, stars shining and disappearing, rookies stepping into the fire, and veterans clinging onto what might be their last cup run. The ice isn't just where the games are played, it's where the players break, bend, and somehow still keep moving forward. Because the truth is, the Stanley Cup doesn't go to the best team. It goes to the last team standing, the one that can take the chaos and still come out on the other side. And if this is just what round 1 looks like, just wait.